Good morning, and welcome to the Technology Challenge, a part of the Bethune Center's Innovation and Entrepreneurship Academy that happens in the fall of the calendar year at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Welcome to our partners at the College of Engineering and pulling off this tech challenge. And welcome to our judges today who will introduce themselves in a sec. I'm hoping that you can all see our slide deck. That's awesome. And just as means of introduction, I'm Gregory Thomas, the Executive Director for the Bethune Center for Entrepreneurship, a pan-campus, a cross-campus center for all students of all levels and alumni of the last decade. Also, I'm a lecturer at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Next slide, please. And I'd like to introduce to you today Sundar Krishnamurthy, the Eugene and Ronnie M. Eisenberg Distinguished Professor in Engineering and Department Head of Mechanical Engineering and Industrial Engineering and Site Director for our Center for E-Design. Sundar, I'd like to kick it over to you. If you could introduce, please, the thoughts around the technology challenge, the tech challenge.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, student teams. I'm sorry, my photo is not as colorful or as good looking as Director Thomas's, but it has to do for now. On behalf of the Bethune Center for Entrepreneurship, College of Engineering, our entire campus I&D team, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to our inaugural Tech Challenge competition. This competition is a culmination of 2 years of coordinated efforts between Bethune Center and the leadership team in our College of Engineering in partnership with our Dean's Advisory Council, College of Natural Sciences, College of Information Computer Sciences, and School of Nursing. It all started with Chancellor's vision for a campus-wide innovation ecosystem and the I&D task force that he put together to develop a roadmap for that to happen. Director Thomas and I were members of the task force, and we have worked together tirelessly on many fronts to realize that vision. We are truly grateful to Dean Rahman and our Assistant Dean of Development, M.K. Young, for their interest and commitment to stimulate, recognize, and reward innovation and creativity in our classrooms and all our students' extracurricular activities. We are also very fortunate to have on our team Professor of Practice in Manufacturing, Jim LeGrand, who brings his expertise and industry experience to our classes and to this competition. Finally, I cannot thank Director Thomas, Carly, and the entire team for their generous and enthusiastic support, without which this event would not have been possible. Now, student teams, thanks to you and the amazing technology innovations, we are confident that this tech challenge will be a permanent fixture in our innovation competition series for years to come. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you so much, Sundar. And Sundar briefly introduced MK, but as a means of thank you, Assistant Dean for Development, Mary Knight Young. Next slide, Carly. And Professor of Practice and Manufacturing, Jim LeGrand, as Sundar introduced. Thank you, Jim. Next slide, Carly. And our judges, we're going to let our judges just give a brief intro of themselves for the audience, starting with Jeff Elkins.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Elkins, and I'm from class of '86, mechanical engineering, now living in California, but a long history of medical device startups and large companies. And this is in 3 states, from Massachusetts to Florida to now the Bay Area of California, but very close to the competition in that have had to pitch these ideas and raise money for them and start the companies and get these products to market. And I've been involved from heart and brain and kidneys and peripheral vasculature. And now I work in veins. And I've both run companies as CEO and early startups and takeover from founders, as well as really been the engineer on the production floor or the R&D lab. But very much looking forward to this, and thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Next slide, please. Tamara Sobers. Tamara, we'd love it if you would give us your intro.
Hi, pleasure to be here today. Tamara Sobers. I'm a wireless communications engineer and a group leader at the MITRE Corporation based in Bedford. I'm in Boston. And a lot of my work is focused on wireless communications and signal processing, whether it's prototyping work or trying to look for new technologies that would be of interest to our sponsors. So we have to sometimes pitch ideas internally, but also pitch ideas or kind of help shape our sponsors' ideas as well. And thank you for the invite. Looking forward to today.
Excellent. We're looking forward to the insights that you give. And last but not least, Elena Adams.
Hello, everyone. It's great to meet you all. I'm Elena Adams, and I'm a graduate from the School of Engineering. I received my PhD in mechanical engineering in 2008. It was also at UMass where I started my first company and participated in one of the first technology innovation challenges. So I'm really excited to come back today and hear all these fantastic pitches and see how the program has really evolved. So after graduating from UMass, I went on to start and run several technology startups. And then recently I have joined a bigger company doing entrepreneurship within a bigger organization as Fitbit, and now I'm at Google, which is a very entrepreneurial role in running product lines at both of those companies. So I'm really excited to have taken all the learnings that we've had in the startups and now also apply it to these bigger organizations. So good luck to all of you today, and I'm excited to hear all these great pitches.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And it's great to see that wonderful, what I think is a UMass degree on the wall in back of you.
Sure is.
Go UMass. Thank you. I'm going to spin through this quickly for the folks in the audience. We are at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, which is seated right in the heart of the Pioneer Valley, one of the largest and most beautiful campuses in the world, and with strong rankings in many fields. Next slide, please. This just gives you a view of the first year class coming in. We bring in about 5,000 students a year out of 40,000 applicants with great GPA, ACT and SAT scores, and a good component of international students come in as a part of that cohort too. Alana students or BIPOC students are 33% of the class, the incoming class. Next slide, please. And as I said to you earlier, entrepreneurship is not just one area of the campus, it's across campus. And I love how this tour guide is standing on the bench up high, pointing that out to this group that we're a large campus, but we come together in many different ways. Next slide, please. We come together from the STEM hallways, next slide, please, to fine arts with innovation and entrepreneurship. Next slide, please. And our co-curricular programming, which means not for credit classes that Sundar mentioned earlier, is strong. On a Saturday, you see here a I-Corps cohort being coached on customer discovery. Next slide, please. And last but not least, at UMass, the food is great and #1 dining for 5 or 6 years in a row. Next slide, please. And so with that, this is the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Academy Tech Challenge, a part of a 5-part Innovation and Entrepreneurship Fall Semester Academy. And we also look forward to the elevated competition in the spring, noted the Innovation Challenge, with the preliminary round and the folks chosen in the preliminary round to compete in the finals. Next slide, please. And so just a reminder, one reminder for us, November 17th, from 4 to 6 in the Student Union on the 4th floor will be the Innovation Entrepreneurship Academy Awards Night, where the winners from this competition and the other 4 competitions will be celebrated with prizes, cash, and also celebrated with networking and mentors in the room for them to meet and greet. Next slide, please. And so with that, just one quick thank you here, and the important thank you is on the bottom for the sponsorship. We can't do these things without philanthropic support. And the Eisenberg School, the Provost's office, and a long list of others, and bringing the bookend to a close almost. On this slide is the College of Engineering. College of Engineering, Sundar and Dean Rahman really have put their money where the path meets the road, or the foot meets the path, or however you say that, and are sponsors that we really appreciate to help put on super events like this. Next slide, please. And so I'll kick it over to Carly. We're going to get the event started. Carly's going to facilitate us going through that. Carly, I've seen your notes that we're going over in time and we're behind. So I'm going to shut up and you take it away. Thank you very much. Carly Furcada, the program manager for the Bethune Center for Entrepreneurship. In addition to that, she serves as the program director for our Collegiate Summer Venture Program that services all the schools in the Pioneer Valley, all 14. Carly, kick it off, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you, students and community members, for joining us here today for our first ever inaugural Tech Challenge. I really want to turn it over to our students so we can start their pitches. Today, you're going to hear from 16 new startup ventures that are working in the technology and innovation space. They each have 4 minutes to pitch with 6 minutes of Q&A. We're going to jump right into it with our first pitcher, Sequestrar. I want to turn it over to our team. They're able to screen share and they can kick things off. As a reminder, we're going to have a timer up on the screen. So as soon as that timer goes off, we are going to ask that the startup continues to kind of close their pitch and move on to Q&A. Looks
go,
great.
Carly?
Ethan, as soon as you start going, we'll start timing. Feel free to take it away.
All right, sounds great. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be pitching for Sequestrar today. My name is Ethan. So a little bit about Sequestrar, quick overview. Sequestrar is working to transform brewers' spent grain into biochar for carbon capture, soil amendment, and renewable energy to use on site. We'll get a little bit into what that means, but first, here's my beautiful team from left to right. We got Lincoln, Ethan, Connor, Megan, Jack, and Joe. We've also had a significant amount of support from several professors and a couple of local entrepreneurs as well. So I imagine we're all pretty familiar with beer, but maybe we don't realize the significant environmental impact. Producing just 1 six-pack of beer is equivalent of charging your phone 158 times. That's the same as burning 1.4 pounds of coal. In addition to this carbon footprint from breweries, there's a massive amount of waste produced in the form of spent grain. It's kind of like the husk of the barley that's left after you brew a beer. Think of it like wet tea leaves after you make a pot of tea. Generally, grains are given away freely to farmers for animal feed, but there's an issue in urban areas and farmers don't really want to bring a giant truck into the city and deal with all that. Oftentimes, the urban breweries will just send their waste to a landfill. In either case, carbon dioxide is rapidly re-emitted into the atmosphere. This is your carbon cycle. Basically, plants absorb the CO2, turn it to biomass, breaks down, maybe gets eaten by animals, whatever happens, gets re-released. On the right, we're showing what we're introducing. It's the biochar cycle. Using pyrolysis, you can basically capture 50% of the carbon in the biomass, transforming it into biochar, which you then bury in the ground, and it can store it there for hundreds or even thousands of years, which is great. And of course, it also has a significant amount of energy generated. That's all clean, green, renewable. So here's what biochar looks like. Like I said, it's a carbon sink, great. But while it's in the ground, it's also a great soil amendment, helps to retain nutrients, helps retain water, and it provides some financial benefits. You can sell it for $1,800 a ton, and you get some carbon credits if you want to go that route, and also tax credits from the government, which is great. Here's a quick overview of the system we've designed. Basically, dried spent grain enters the top into a heated chamber. A motorized screw feeds it through the heated chamber, turning it into biochar and pyrolysis vapors. biochar, physical product, drops out the bottom, and then your pyrolysis vapors are piped out the top. These are combustible. You can use them to supplement natural gas usage within the brewery and pre-dry your fresh grains coming in. Here's another visual. This is our CAD model. Same sort of idea of what I just showed. And the inside of it, so you can kind of see what's going on in there. Got your heating chamber, screw, all that. We do have some competition. These two are probably the most similar products out there, both screw feed pyrolysis systems. Fortunately, they're located in Europe, and they are not specifically designed for brewer spent grains. They're very large, expensive, pretty different than what we're doing. Any financial support we did receive would be used towards materials. Over on the right, you can see our ideal dream build that's using the highest end mechanical components, very high end insulation and steel. It is $5,655. Important thing to note, we're focused on brewer spent grains right now, but there's tons of other feedstocks out there, anything organic, agricultural residues, trash, cardboard and whatnot. Construction waste is great. And then just zooming out a little bit, for the impact on the world, it's basically just, we got to keep organic waste out of our landfills and keep them into our agricultural fields. We got to expand fertile land, shrink landfills. That's it. Thank you all so much. I'm ready for some questions.
Great work, Ethan. We're going to go straight into our 8-minute Q&A.
And we can start up anytime.
Yes, you're welcome to jump right in.
Very well done. I was going to ask, who the end customer? Is it the brewer?
It is the brewer.
And do they do this on site, move it away? But the idea, you mentioned that they could reuse for example, the vapors for the natural gas and energy, et cetera. Yeah, how does that cycle work at any given Anheuser-Busch, for example?
So they have, so we'd incorporate it into their boiler. Another thing that we might need as part of the system is a boiler that can use both natural gas, which they're already using, and pyrolysis vapors. These already exist. They have combined boilers of all sorts of types, where basically you can use mixed fuels and whatever to create energy. And yeah, we definitely want it to be on site. We don't want to have any sort of like wasted power. We thought about making electricity and whatnot, putting it out to the grid, but it just wasn't making sense efficiency wise and cost wise and everything.
Nice.
I'd like to follow up on that question. So with your customer being the brewer, what is their motivation to pay for this, and what is the payment structure look like?
Let's see. Here's some, I don't know if you guys see, it's a lot going on. You don't got to pay attention to all of it at once, but just real quick, this is sort of a chart made for myself. Basically, it has the size of the brewery on the left in barrels per year. You got a column that's how much grain they're producing, how much energy is produced. So basically, they get out of this energy and biochar, right? And then this green column shows what they're getting out of it. They get savings on natural gas, and it's quite a lot here. You can see it's in thousands. And then the main source of income selling this biochar, it's $1,800 a ton, and that's where a lot of the income's coming from. And then of course there's a little bit from tax credits. That's only a couple $100 added in there. And then I did also include a little bit about their additional costs from having to have someone run it, but for the most part, it's completely self-run. It just needs someone to occasionally go in there and clean it out.
And can you talk a little bit about your go-to-market strategy? Who are you targeting first and why?
So our go-to-market strategy would be, we're going to be targeting urban breweries who currently are putting their spent grain into landfills, which is pretty common. I was looking into some breweries in Chicago specifically, because a lot of them, it's either, if they're big enough, they can send it to those like big dairy farms out there, but if they're too small, these giant industrial farms just aren't interested at all. And like, they just are like, no, we're not going to waste our time picking up like, I don't know, a couple thousand pounds of grain, you know what I mean? They want people who are giving them hundreds of thousands of pounds every month. That would be, Chicago's a good target. I know San Francisco also has an issue with, I believe their compost system. I gotta look into this some more, but basically their compost system, and they were having some issues and they just had to keep sending grain into landfill. So anywhere like that where it's ended up in the landfill would be a good spot for us.
I have a follow-up to that. How many urban breweries are there in considering the total number of breweries, let's just say in the US? How many, like what's the percentage of urban breweries?
I don't know that figure off the top of my head. I do know there's quite a lot just from my own experience in cities. I can imagine you guys have seen plenty of breweries around, and you'd just be surprised by the amount of grain these breweries are producing. Like even like I was you can see here in this chart, I was surprised. These are all microbreweries, so these are under 15,000 barrels. These are like your small local little, like in a city there's just one of them, right? And they're making, you can see like yearly a 15,000 barrel brewery will make 67,000 tons of grain. So I think there's definitely ample resources.
And so you mentioned that with your funding, you were hoping to actually build a prototype of this. Do you have a brewery in mind that you would partner with?
Yeah, we probably partner with one of the more local breweries out here to use their grain. We wouldn't ask them to buy it because these are rural. I live in Amherst, and we're pretty rural out here. I've talked to a couple local breweries. They all have farmers to take their grains because we're out in the country. There's plenty of small farms. We're like, oh yeah, we'll take those. We'll feed them to our animals. No big deal. So for them, I would use their grain basically to make sure the system works, obviously, and get some more accurate numbers. But I wouldn't be interested in selling it to them. I'd be interested in selling it once I have a working system to an urban brewery.
And the basic business model, you know, $5,600 or so device. How big is the market? How big, you know, what is the opportunity?
Huge, absolutely huge. It's a great question. So annually there's 38.6 million tons of brewer spent grains. That's on a global scale. So it's just, I mean, you could just keep expanding on the brewer spent grains. But like I said, one of my final slides back here, there's also, I actually really want to get into this next, is other agricultural residues. These aren't great, but the one I really like is cardboard. Cardboard's a big problem. You can only recycle it 5 to 7 times. Basically, the strands of paper in there, like a micro scale, they keep getting smaller and smaller, and eventually you just can't recycle it anymore. It just won't, you can't do it. So biochar is a really good option for cardboard. And you know, we use insane amounts of cardboard, Amazon and Walmart and everything come in package in these things, you know. So I think that'll be an important feedstock eventually.
So to scale, is it the same technology, or do you need to make some adaptations?
You need to make some adaptations. For cardboard, you probably need to mix in a little bit of wood and a little bit of, you probably need to pelletize it. So it's a little bit different preparation wise. The technology itself, exactly the same. For other biomass, it's pretty much exactly the same. You just need to break it up small enough and get it through. You basically just don't want air getting in your system. It needs to be an airtight process. So you need to minimize the air. Something like cardboard, like loaded with air. So you need to basically compact it, pelletize it first before you put it through. But you could use the same machine.
And no regulatory issue, meaning outgassing, byproducts, anything in that regulators would be concerned about?
Nope. So this is already something people do. Actually, it's far cleaner than a regular fire. If you're burning super hot, you actually end up burning off some of those nasty compounds you're talking about. There's something called Pacific Biochar over in California, actually, and they're doing this, and they're getting all sorts of like government grants, government tax credits, all sorts of support for it. It seems to be like they seem to see it as really green technology. I don't think the emissions, if there are emissions, they're smaller than burning, smaller than decomposing, and you get the carbon removal with them, which offsets it.
And you mentioned that the tax credits, that they're minimal, but are those, do you expect those to stay around in the long term?
Yep, those are actually, there's some local tax credits that are increasing. The 45Q tax credit, that one is just set right now. It's $50 per metric ton of CO2 removed from the atmosphere. I included in there. It's not the main source of income for the brewers, but it is a nice bonus, really, maybe $1,000, maybe $1,500, depending how much of this they make.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Great work. Thank you, team. Judges, we are now going to give you a couple of minutes to fill in the scorecard. We're going to pull up our next team shortly and get going from there. Okay, David, while our judges are finally hitting submit on their scorecards, I'm going to give you the opportunity to pull up your screen deck and we can go from there. I will let you know when we're all set.
Thank you.
Okay, we have all of the scorecards. David, as soon as you start pitching, we will start timing. Feel free to take it away whenever you're ready.
Thank you. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is David Egidio. I'm one of the co-founders at Cryptic Med. Cryptic Med is a software telecommunication company whose goal is to reimagine the 911 system to make it a more streamlined experience for everyone, from patient to provider. At Cryptic Med, we set out to solve three main problems with the current 911 system related to nursing homes and 911 call centers. The first one being understaffed nursing homes and call centers. These call centers are staffed with call takers, and at these centers, there are usually 4 or less call taking seats that serve, on average, 50,000 people in their community at any one time. So if 5 or more calls come into the center at once, your call can be put on hold. They can be transferred to a call center that's further away from your emergency, or they might cut ties with their current caller in order to answer your call. Staffing doesn't just affect the call centers, it affects nursing homes alike, where most nursing staff are required to work at unfavorable staff to patient ratios. The second is a lack of high quality data in 911. When an emergency arises, staff are required to read off lengthy medical records that state their patient's unique medical and handling needs. And especially when this information goes through the chain of command, when it finally reaches the clinicians, which are the EMTs and paramedics, important information to better take care of their patients can be lost. And finally, incorrectly triaged calls, which result in wasting 911 resources on calls that could be non-emergent and be handled by a private ambulance company. That gets into our solution, which is Cryptic Med. Cryptic Med allows nursing staff to create customizable, unique medical profiles for their residents. And these profiles align parallel with their current charting software. The only difference is that Cryptic Med takes the most pertinent information and leaves out the jargon. When emergency arises, staff simply select the patient that it's for and select the chief complaint that most closely relates to the issue. Cryptic Med will then give them a sequence of questions that relate to that chief complaint. And these are dynamic questions, meaning your answer to the first question impacts the second question that's going to be asked. During this, Cryptic Med's software is live triaging the responses, and it's assigning urgency to them. More urgent calls go to the local 911 center, while less urgent calls are sent to the local private ambulance company. The best part about this, it requires 0 voice calling, if none is needed, which really frees up call takers to take other calls coming into their center. And another great thing is that EMS are given high quality information to make accurate clinical decisions for their patients. Currently, we have no direct competitors, but we do have a lot of indirect competitors, as they all require the use of dialing 911, and especially in the realm of medical profiles. These competitors use medical profiles, but they're associated with a specific number. And let's understand that when you dial 911, you're most likely not calling for yourself, you're calling for someone else. At Cryptic Med, we define our target in the market as nursing homes with over 15,500 facilities, primary and secondary call centers with over 5,500 facilities, and roughly 1.4 million patients that require nursing home care 24/7. Cryptic Med, we are SaaS software, which means we are subscription as a service for business-to-business transactions, selling directly to nursing homes, call centers, and private ambulance companies. If we got funds today, those funds would go towards pilot program expenses, cloud storage, marketing, and sales. Now, of course, I'm not the only person on this team. We built a great team of people that are passionate about the project, including 3 software engineers with a combined of 30 plus years of experience, a lot of that being in security. We also have a board advisor who has 19 plus years of medical care experience, not only from being an EMT and a paramedic and a dispatcher himself, but also an instructor for future paramedics. And currently, as our timeline, in January 2021, we first developed the idea. In March of 2021, we became incorporated through Pepperdine Law. We built our first prototype, which we used to gauge our customer discovery. This September, we started our HIPAA compliancy, and December 2021, we expect a pilot program. Thank you very much, and questions are much appreciated.
Thank you, David. We're going to jump right into our 8-minute Q&A.
We never know order. Feel free.
I'll kick it off then. David, thank you for presenting this business. One question is, can you talk a little bit about how this integrates with current workflows? Is it an additional step that would need to be taken? And how do you foresee with these personnel who are already strapped for time, how do you see this fitting into the model that they currently use today?
Yeah, so I guess on the side, we'll start with the side of nursing homes. So they have 3 main options, which is all dependent on what they choose. So for us to get the information from their charting software, we can either be directly incorporated into their database and pull information there. They can upload information, I believe it's CSV files as well, or obviously manually uploading as well. So that's how we kind of incorporate ourselves into the patient charting software. As for dispatchers and call takers, we see it more as building a new CAD system for them, so like computer aided dispatch for this software. We've looked at trying to implement it into existing CAD softwares, but we really don't see how we could 100% make a fluent connection into that. And then as for paramedics and EMTs, they usually either have software that might give them some quick call notes that the call taker took, or a lot of the times it's usually just radio communication. So that's kind of how we see implementing currently for those aspects.
Do you have a sense of, like in your background research, how many, like what percentage of calls have misinformation that's carried forward as a patient is in transit? Yeah, so we've done some research. So we averaged that about nursing homes make upwards around 5 911 calls, at a high end, 5 911 calls a day. And we looked at a study in, I believe it was like Millville, Oregon, where the nursing staff made up 3% of the population, but they were responsible for almost 40% of the 911 calls, and much of those calls being non-emergent related, and I believe costing the city over $750,000 a year in wasted aid, or aid that could have went to someone else that was having a more severe problem. Because when you take an ambulance out of a 911 system, it requires them to request mutual aid, which are ambulances that are further away from emergencies, which is going to cause, it's just more dangerous for the whole system. So.
And I was going to ask, could you run through an example in the world that this exists, what that call looks like, how it's responded to? And, I noticed HIPAA on the slide, and how you get around the HIPAA aspect. Is it the software and some kind of agreements on confidentiality, et cetera, that lets the patient information reach them?
Yeah, so we're currently going through the compliancy group, and it's a bunch of like audit questions, auditing your software, making sure you have, I mean, I'm not the software engineer on the team, but encryption audits, penetration testing. And then when we do, let's say we're working with a nursing home, we have to both sign, like that's, we went to, if I go here. So like the use of funds for the pilot program expenses, a lot of that would be legal fees, as in we need to write the nursing home a contract that says, anything that happens with you, we're not responsible for, and then they write one for us. So that's a big one. And then as for the sequence of events, nursing staff will see their patient, they look through our database, they select their patient, and then they select, the chief complaint. This information is going to go directly to their call center that handles the calls in their jurisdiction. So a lot of times with 911 calls, when you first call, it might go to your closest state police station, then it might go to your local police station, and then finally it might go to the fire department, or if you have a private ambulance company that serves 911, it can then go to the 911 center. So ours would go directly to the call center that's actually going to be dispatching your units. And then from then, the call takers or the dispatchers would just assign the medical profile and the actual the questions that the nursing staff answered. And on their way to the call, we have the tech and the driver. So the person that's actually going to be doing medical care will be able to sit in the ambulance and read through what the call entails and the patient's medical history. And so right when they get on scene, they walk through that door, they know exactly the best way to treat the patient. So that's kind of like the scene of events.
What kind of device are you expecting for the nursing homes to use to enter this information?
So we're currently going through that with HIPAA. Theoretically, it can be from any browser or tablet if the nursing homes uses tablets. It could be used through a tablet. And I know we're going through the HIPAA compliancy right now. We would like to use personal phones as well, but if that doesn't align with HIPAA, then that would be off the table. But it can be through any browser on any computer and tablet applications like iPhone or iPads, I guess.
In the last minute we have, can you just quickly touch upon the business model?
Yeah. Yeah, so just like how we really just approaching people is, so nursing homes would be charged based on beds. So since there's not so many nursing homes in the United States to where it's like, we can actually build interpersonal connections with them, but it would be charged based on the number of beds in facilities. And then on average for your cellular device, 911 costs about $1 to $2 a month just for like AT&T to service it for you. So our price would range a little bit of more than that, maybe like at $4 per bed, just because of hosting and storage of information. And then call centers would be charged a flat fee, and that's for not only a flat fee for like their call taking stations. So like I said, most call taking stations, they have 4 or less seats. So they based on the number of seats they have. And then the call centers will also be paying for the ambulances that are associated with that. And then those numbers were not 100% clear on as of like what we're charged today, but that's roughly how we would think about it.
And if it works, do you have a way to protect the business, make it proprietary, differentiated such that it can't be simply copied?
That's something that we definitely were working on for like intellectual property. It's definitely something that we have to look into more, but we have given it thought, yeah.
And really quickly, is this technology in addition to services that already exist that these nursing homes, 911 centers are already using, or is it replacing something?
So we would like to just replace it instead of them calling 911 and dialing the number and using their cell phone. We would like to replace that aspect of it so it can be done with completely, wirelessly and not without actually having to call someone. Yeah. So I guess replacing.
Great work. Thank you so much, David and team.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again.
Judges, as always, you're going to have a couple of minutes to fill in your scorecard as we pull up the next team and get going on the next startup as well. Okay, welcome Team Anchor. I'm going to give you the opportunity to pull up your slide deck as we're getting in our final scorecards.
I'm gonna shut a light off.
Okay, we have our final scorecards. Welcome back, Jeff. Thank you, Team Anchor. As always, you have 4 minutes to pitch with 8 minutes of Q&A. As soon as you start pitching, we will start timing. Best of luck to your team.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Hayden. Today, I'll be pitching my business idea, Anchor. All right. So, many topics in the health and nutrition industry are up for debate, such as which diets are best. We have the carnivore diet, the vegan diet. Hydration is not a problem that's up for debate. Only 22% of adults drink enough water every single day in America, with the average adult only drinking 5 glasses per day. Anchor seeks to solve this issue. So the problem is that only 22% of Americans drink enough water. This is a major problem because the function of water, the water is responsible for virtually every process in the body. Some of these including carrying nutrients and oxygen to your cells, flushing bacteria from your bladder, aiding digestion, and so on. This is important because 60 to 70% of the human body is made up of water. So it's easy to see why not drinking enough water can lead to some major issues. To name a few: body weakness, low blood pressure, dizziness, confusion, and dark urine. Over long periods of time, this dehydration turns into severe or chronic dehydration. This can lead to low salt levels in the body, weak immune system, organ failure, and even death. So the current market for water tracking consists of manual water tracking, in which people have water bottles that have measured amounts of water, and they log their water intake manually on their phones, and some have Apple Watches that can notify them when to drink more water. So the mission of Anchor is to motivate people to drink enough water through the standardization of the automation of water tracking. So our plan, we can get this done through a rubber boot on a reusable water bottle. Hydro Flask already has rubber boots on their bottle. And our plan is to use force resisting sensors built into the rubber boot. This is able to track the weight of the water. And once users fill up their bottle and they set it down on the ground, it measures the weight of the water bottle. And as they drink water, it continuously measures the weight of the bottle to tell the user how much water they can drink. So the force resisting sensor at the bottom of the rubber boot sends this information to the Anchor app on the user's phone. And sorry, I apologize. So this process automates water consumption so that users don't have to manually enter the water trackage into their phone, which is why most people quit in the first place. So the Anchor application tracks data over long periods of time to detect patterns and seasonality within the data. Personalized consumption goals based on height, weight, and activity levels will differ between users. The application notifies users when and how much to drink in order to reach their personalized goals. Within the app, you are able to compare yourself to your friends or professional athletes. In-app rewards also entice users to reach their daily water goals. So the target market for this product would be individuals who are interested in water consumption, as well as those who already track their water manually. Sorry, I think I have a delay. So future plans. This is
Hayden, we are at the 4-minute mark, so we're going to move on to our 8-minute Q&A.
sure.
Cool. I guess I'll start off. One question I have. The health impacts, you take us to a certain level of issues, for example, a wide variety of health impacts. Are there things that are quantifiable relative to, for example, renal function decline or use of Lasix or heart failure where, fluid management is tough? Are there specifics you can point to that, again, quantifiable, whether it causes death or hospitalization or X migraines, things like that?
I can't point to any specifics at this time. I'm more focused on the importance of daily water and the short-term effects, which include like dizziness, laziness, and the fact that they can lead to more problems down the road. I don't have any specific facts for long-term chronic dehydration at this time.
Hayden, could you talk a little bit about, so there's smart water bottles on the market today. Can you talk a little bit about the difference in the smart water bottles compared to the technology you presented today and what the opportunities might be in your technology over smart water bottles?
Yes, so Anchor aims to build new technology through the force resisting sensors by measuring the weight of the water bottle. I'm assuming you're referring to the Fitbit water bottle, which has a like a vacuum sensing cap at the top by tracking the air in the water bottle. This is much different technology that would be cheaper to make. The Fitbit water bottle is very expensive. Most people on the market today have Fitbit or have Hydro Flasks or Yeti water bottles, and Hydro Flasks already make a rubber boot on the bottom. So Anchor aims to make a rubber boot that can fit on a variety of different water bottles that would be much cheaper to make than the Fitbit cap. And the other technology that includes manual water tracking. That's what a lot of users do for a short period of time. They log their water into, there's many different apps that you can get on your phone. And these people generally quit after a short period of time because it takes a lot of work to keep consistency with it. So Anchor just aims to automate that whole process.
And who do you sell to?
So this is still an idea on paper.
Yeah, so who would you, as you see this plan growing and you see the
Yep.
opportunity and the technology, what does your business plan look like? Where do you see the
Sure, yep.
opportunity for who to?
Yeah, so I would, so the target market for this product would be anyone who's seeking to track their water or is interested, or those who already track their water through apps on their phone through manual tracking that want to automate the process so that they don't have to manually put in any work and it can all be done for them.
So the consumer is paying for the app? Are they paying for the boot?
The boot, and then they put it on their water bottle, and then it's a one-time payment. So once they buy the boot, then they can reuse it on their reusable water bottle.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do you have any concerns designing to a specific water bottle vendor?
Not at this moment. I'm in contact with a fellow student of mine who is able to produce the Anchor app, but we don't have any plans. I'm still looking for an engineering partner to help me develop a prototype at this time.
So if you, I guess speaking about the shape of the particular, like the brand that you mentioned, are there any concerns copying or leveraging, not copying, leveraging that shape as part of your proposal?
Not quite, because this is a completely different idea. The whole goal of the Hydro Flask rubber boot is to prevent denting, and this would be a different type of rubber boot that's concerned with measuring water, and it can fit on many different water bottles. It's a different type of technology.
Can you speak to the numbers, cost of the device or end user price of the device and market size, and if you segment markets out to elderly and young and athletics, and Can you speak to the big picture market?
Yeah, so the target market would be younger individuals in the athletic, health, wellness, fitness community. I don't have any exact numbers for how much it would be to produce this product as of now. But I am confident that it would be much cheaper than to produce an entire Fitbit water bottle, because the technology that they use for water tracking is much more expensive.
Have you thought of the hospital, meaning in the world of heart failure, fluid management is very critical for the patient. Have you thought about the hospital market?
I've not. That's a very good idea. That could you go more in depth on that?
Yeah, when patients are fluid overloaded, this is usually heart failure. It's very critical that they don't overdo because it builds up in the lungs and the legs, but they also have to stay hydrated so the kidneys don't hold this back.
Okay, so then Anchor would be a perfect solution to that because it's concerned with tracking very specific amounts of water, not general amounts. And it should be able to track down to like the last gram of how much water they put into their body.
How would you use the funds if you were granted money?
Yeah, so I would plan to use any funds that we get towards developing a prototype. We have an engineering lab on campus that I would love to use those resources to develop a prototype. I'm concerned with developing a force resistant sensor that would be as accurate as possible, that I would also be able to fit into the rubber boot. So that would be my plan with any funds.
Great. And do you see any IP here? Anything that can be protected?
Yeah. So I don't have any technology to give you yet. But I'm confident that once I develop this force resisting sensor that's able to accurately track water, that it would differentiate itself from the rest of the market and might be able to get itself patented.
Yeah, just one thought there. You might want to start that investigation now. You don't have to wait to have a product to file, to do your IP search and to see if there are some opportunities here to lock that down before you go too far. So you don't need to have a product. So one bit, you might want to start doing some investigation now if there's something you can protect and try to protect it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And back to this question of DSL, yeah, do you find this thing in CVS or online or sold by Nike?
Sure, I would plan to sell it online at first, work through social media influencers to promote the product and sell it through that way. We can build an online website. Eventually, the major goal would be to partner with a brand like Hydro Flask or maybe even Apple to build it in with their app that they already have for water tracking.
Very good.
Great work. Thank you, Hayden and team.
Yeah, thanks, Hayden.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Okay, judges, next step is to go into the scorecards. We're going to start pulling up the next team shortly. Thank you. Okay, Team Interactive Deepfake, I now have all the judges' scorecards. You are welcome to pull up your deck and I'll let you know when you can start pitching.
All right, thank you.
Okay, this looks fantastic. As a reminder, you have 4 minutes to pitch with 8 minutes of Q&A. As soon as you start pitching, we will start timing. Please feel free to take it away.
All right, we can start now. Hi, I'm Sid. This is Anant, and we are Materium. Our product is an interactive deepfake. The interactive deepfake is a digital avatar to represent your business. Here's why it matters.
Now, did you know?
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There are about 580 million users that interact with video-based content on the internet every day. That's a staggering amount. And it goes without saying that if you're a business who wants to reach a large audience on the internet, you need to be creating videos on the internet. But the problem is that video creation is expensive and time consuming. With equipment, lighting, and sound, the whole process is a huge hassle. And to add to this, even after you reach a huge a customer base on the internet, it's really hard to maintain sustainable relationships with your customers. Social media is crowded. Phone and email, they're notorious for the long waits and slow responses. So what do? This is where our solution, the interactive deepfake, comes in. Our solution is basically a website-based tool that enables your business to create professional videos within a few clicks. You simply select an avatar, feed in a text script, and our AI processes them to produce a video of your avatar speaking your script. And to add to this, you can embed our IDF into your website to provide 24/7 live customer care. How do we do this? You simply feed in a document containing some basic knowledge about the product, about the topic that you care about, and our AI processes that document and your avatar to produce an IDF that can answer any questions about the topic in a video call-based environment with your user. And over these conversations, our IDF collects valuable customer feedback, which can then be used by your business to improve your products.
So who's our target market? Any business who is trying to scalably answer questions that their large customer base has. This includes everyone from startups to companies that are selling online courses. People trust individuals more than they trust corporations. Now, businesses have the option of adding our IDF as the face of their brand. Our IDFs will not only be featured in their ads, but also help maintain customer relations after the customer has purchased their service or product. Our IDF also has the option of targeting its dialogue to the customer. For example, it can change the language that it's talking into its customer, as well as use the customer's name. This enhances the personal relation or the connection between the brand and the customer. We are currently in our product development stage, which is really exciting. We'll be moving on to conducting customer interviews so that we can narrow down on who our target market is, as well as tailor our product to their needs. This will be done by December. We'll also be hiring talent so that we can expedite our research and development process. Funds will also enable us to launch our scalable MVP. This includes costs of cloud computing, servers, and other technological and marketing costs. This will be done by February. Thank you for your attention and time. We will take any questions you have now.
Great work. We will go straight into our 8-minute Q&A with our judges.
Hi, thank you. So you mentioned, I guess at a high level, the types of companies you can target, but is there a specific industry that you think would be interested in using this product?
At the moment, we are strongly considering companies that are selling online courses. The reason being that when there are courses that are selling for maybe, let's say, $80, and there's a lot of customers that are buying these courses. For example, let's say it's a marketing company that's selling a marketing course. When the customer goes on the landing page, they probably have a lot of questions about the specificities of what the course really offers. But there might be certain things that they might not be covering. And if the IDF is present there on the purchase page, it can answer all those questions. The other option, the current option, is basically having the customer go through the textual FAQs, which will only deter the customer from doing it in this day and age of low attention spans.
And I was going to ask us, such as, you mentioned, okay, courses. Can you give us such as, and maybe the picture of how this would unfold with the company you're thinking or the example you're thinking?
Okay, so let's say, I'll build on is it okay if I build on the example I just gave right now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say it's a YouTube marketing company that's selling a course on how to market on YouTube, how to build YouTube ads. You go on their, you click on their YouTube ad, you go on their purchase page. There's an IDF staying right there, and it'll take any questions you have. It's going to be more like a video conference sort of interface, so you can directly talk to the IDF and ask whether, let's say, whether they will cover how to present themselves in a YouTube ad, and maybe what exactly the course will cover specifically, and the IDF can elaborate on what exactly the course will cover and answer any follow-up questions they have to. And the IDF can also address any concerns they have with regard to the course, and any additions that the customers want to the course, and convey those additions to the business.
And how does the payment aspect work on that? Dollars, economics, etc.
Okay, so thank you for that question, first of all. And I'm gonna pull up that slide. Okay, so it's gonna be a subscription service. It's gonna be $200 per month that the business will pay us for having our IDF on their website and having access to our video editing tool.
And how many customers, meaning there's enough customers multiplied by 200 to make an interesting business model that's ultimately financeable?
Exactly.
Can you talk about that a little bit more and what the competition looks like? Like, how did you land at the 200 per month?
First of all, we want to make it clear that our business model is not set in stone yet. We want to, first of all, our R&D, once our research and development is complete, we'll have exact numbers on how the economics will look. And we will also have to tweak different factors. So our $200 figure right now is just a variable that we put in. Our competition is, so Synthesia is one of our competitors. It offers deepfakes. It also offers a video editing tool. However, what makes us different from Synthesia, and there's another competitor called Rephrase.ai. What makes us different is their IDFs, their deepfakes are not exactly interactive. Their IDFs are more of a video. They're when you let me actually
they sort of present something. So you can give in a script for the deepfake to present something, and it'll say the script, but there's no interaction between the user and the deepfake. So it's not exactly a two-way channel. It's just a one-way channel. So we're providing a sort of a customer service assistant in the form of a deepfake.
Also, there's a chatbot that Synthesia provides. So this chatbot, for example, has a rule-based system where you can click one of the options and it will talk about those options. It's not really an interactive video conference like interface that we are going for. Our interface will be providing a quick real-time response by the interactive deepfake instead of a bunch of pre-generated videos. The other thing that Synthesia lacks in is the content that it puts out, the videos that it generates. They're not exactly flexible in that you cannot control the emotions or expressions of the deepfake. We can be able to do that. We can be able to manipulate each frame's expressions and edit iteratively. It's the way it presents using its voice and its facial expressions.
Have you considered a multi-tiered model with maybe different options to the solution that you're providing?
So Rephrase.ai provides a similar model, and online, when I was looking, doing my research online, a lot of people actually found it very confusing. Well, at least their model was confusing. So I'm not sure I'm not sure how we would implement it. Maybe we can make a multi-tier model that's going to be less, that's going to be more simplistic with like add-ons. So we would consider that, yes.
And I had a question, the profitability, the ability to earn something on the $200 versus the cost of preparing a deep fake or preparing a video. Is there profit to be made? What kind of margins? You know, assuming a real run, not in the early stages.
I guess at this point it's we still haven't sort of set our costs in stone. And this $200 price range too, that's just based on what we've calculated so far. That's what we think would be profitable.
On those margin, on the $200 and the estimates that we have at the moment, the margins are 60%, and they will increase when we scale even more. They can go from 60% to 80%.
Meaning once you have your software in place, the production is relatively low cost, or once you have your staff in place?
Yeah.
No, perfect.
These profit margins are also not inclusive of the R&D cost, the initial R&D cost. I just want to mention.
Oh, very interesting. No, thank you.
Okay, great work, team. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, judges, welcome back. Mariella, I see that you are now on the call. You're welcome to pull up your slide deck at this time. Okay, this looks great. As a reminder, you have 4 minutes to pitch with 8 minutes of Q&A. There will be a timer up on the screen. As soon as you're done, we'll go straight into our 8 minutes of pitch, 8 minutes for Q&A. Feel free to take it away. As soon as you start pitching, we'll start timing.
Perfect. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Well, hi, my name is Mariela Ponte. I'm a freshman here at UMass, and I'm excited to talk to you about Party 360 today. This is an app that allows college students to find parties near their area that fit their needs by including a description, safety measures, type of music, and just the general age group attending. Now, what is Party 360? It is an app that allows college students to find parties near their area. Students will be able to register these parties, include the description, safety measures, just giving the party goer a better idea of what they'll be attending prior to arriving to the venue. And just connecting the hosts and party goers alike, targeting that 18 to 25 age group demographic. Now, whenever I arrived to UMass, I really was trying to integrate myself in student life during the week and on the weekends, but it was especially hard to integrate myself in nightlife. I was unable to find location to parties and find a venue that I genuinely enjoyed or felt safe in, or that suited my needs. And when talking to others, they were also in the same predicament as I was, which is when I came up with Party 360. Party goers will be able to view the general atmosphere, safety measures, and adjust their preferences according to their priorities. For example, if their main priority is just safety, second would be music environment, third would be an environment where they like to converse in. The parties shown would be parties with those same priorities, so that the parties goers don't have to deal with that trial and error process that all people have to go to when going into a new environment. There'd also be a ranking system in place, just giving the hosts an incentive to continue to throw these good, safe parties. Now, hosts would also be able to link their music just to give the party goers a better idea of what they'd be listening to prior to getting there. An age range that would be allowed to attend. For example, if it was just 20 to 22, only those people in that age group would be able to view the parties. And they'd also set a cap to their parties. So once their parties reach capacity, their party would be removed from the map. Now, why download Party 360? We're really just trying to include those descriptions to help the party goers decide what's best going to fit their needs at that moment in time, and just eliminating the trial and error process that everyone goes through when entering a new environment. We are just trying to ease that burden and not having you waste your time going to a party that you just didn't enjoy. And hosts will be guaranteed that their parties will be viewed, and just having a head count of the people attending the parties would be very beneficial, which we noticed during customer discovery. Now, competitors, frats and sororities, and just house parties that wouldn't be inclined to join the app. And Eventbrite is another app that is doing something somewhat similar to what we are, but not really geared toward that college demographic, which is what we're aiming towards. Now, how would we be making money? It'd be a subscription service. Both party goers and hosts would have limited access to all features on the app. We'd need at minimum 70,000 to start, keeping it at that $14.99 a month. And we would have to get those 7 hosts first prior to getting those 771 other people, other party goers. But yes, that is, I still have some time left, but yes, that is Party 360. Just a quick rundown. Thanks for listening.
Hi, thank you. Do attendees get to go into parties based on their subscription, or what are they getting out of the service?
So the party goers, they would be able to get, it would just be, they would be able to view the description of the party prior to getting there and seeing what is going to suit their needs at that moment in time. So if you were looking for an environment just to converse, have a good conversation, then you would be, you would see on the party what their description is, if that's an environment that would suit your needs. Or if you're just looking to have a good time, dance, you'd be able to see that on the descriptions of the other parties. Just think what best suits you.
Okay, so they would still need to pay. If they need to pay to enter a venue, they would still have to pay.
It would be free for everyone, and then, but you would only have, so if you were looking for an environment just to dance in, you'd only be able to see one of the 5 parties that have the descriptions that you're looking for, not all 5. Once you pay for that subscription, you would have those 5. You'd have all access to all the parties.
One question on the monetary side, is 778 the number to break even, where you get that number and things pay for themselves and cash flow positive, or
no?
778.
No, just staying afloat, not even breaking even. And that wouldn't even be with all the features that I'd want to implement. It would just be kind of the basic standard features, just the description, just the actual address on the map and things like that. It wouldn't be with all the added features that would kind of set us apart. Yes.
And any thoughts to connections with the gig economy, the Ubers and Lyfts and other providers like that to partner up?
Definitely, that is something, because for example, here at UMass, everyone needs an Uber to get to the party regardless. Or if your friend has a car, but that's just on the rare occasion that they do. So definitely that would be something that we would love to do further down the line, but just having a good stable, just starting off with a good app is kind of that's the first stepping stone. And then partnering up with an Uber or a Lyft would be something that would make sense.
Can you provide an example of a host, maybe one in Amherst that you would work with, or
just for example, it could just be a frat or a house party. So teams, they throw party not every weekend. So and also Party 360 is trying to remove that irregularity, because students don't really know what parties are being thrown unless they arrive to the venue. And if that party isn't throwing, then you've just wasted your time and money going to a location that isn't even throwing a party. But yes, it would be a team party. For example, the baseball house, they would want people to go to their parties. They would put yeah, they would put their party description, or it'd be a frat. They would put their address and the description of what they would be throwing that night.
And scalability, you go campus to campus or focus on New England as an alpha site or something.
Yes, it would be Yes, it would be New England first, but it would just be campus to campus, and each college, and just each college would go as we would just grow from college to college, that would be our prime target market, and seeing if there is a possibility going into clubs, but that would be but that really isn't our main focus at the moment. It's just get those college students, that 18 to 22, 23 age group.
Can you go back to the slide with the subscription model, please?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. There.
Okay, so both hosts and the users would pay the subscription?
Yes, it would be both. For the host, they wouldn't be able to cap their parties unless they paid for that subscription. And they wouldn't be able to see, whenever you attend, they wouldn't be able to see, how many people would be going to the parties, which is, they would be able to do it once, twice, but continuously, and they wouldn't be able to do that.
And the 70,000 funds the creation of the app, creation of sort of business model. Yeah, use of proceeds. What do you end up doing with the dollars?
Just kind of re-putting it back in and just trying to perfect and just keep on adding the features that I'm trying to add, which is a hefty amount. That's just the minimum.
So have you started developing the app?
That's what we're currently doing. It was just a bunch of customer discovery, just seeing what the customer wants, because I'm not going to create a product that isn't what they want and need. So just figuring out what that was, and now we're starting to figure out how working on the app and figuring out just a prototype, just seeing how much that's going to cost.
And did you outline the team, what it takes, whether it's software developers or did you outline the team, marketing, etc.?
It's just me. I'm working with, it's just me at the moment. I'm talking to a team. That's what's helping me get this, just helping me just start the model and seeing if I like working with them. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. My dad, he also is in app development, so he's been helping me just kind of just learn the ropes. Mm-hmm.
Are there any concerns for liability?
Yes. My take on it would be, we're just a third party. Whatever happens at the location or prior, that's none of our. We're just recommending you to this location. Now, whenever you look up in Google, like restaurants near me, they're just recommending you that restaurant. They're not liable for anything that happens at that restaurant. We're kind of taking that approach. We're just a third party. Whatever happens at the location, we're not liable for that.
And I was thinking you could test market at UMass. How have you thought about a test market? Again, an alpha site, how this is proven, rolled out, etc.?
I guess we just have to. I've talked to the hosts. I've talked to quite a bit of them, and they would be intrigued, and they would be they would enjoy this app. So it is. I know it's double-ended. I know both parties need it. It's just getting the hosts ready, just getting the hosts on the app and actually having a functioning app, and just getting 7 hosts first, and then starting to bring the party goers. But we'd have to get those 7 hosts first.
Thank you so much. We are at time.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Great
Thank
work. Judges, as always, you have a couple of minutes to fill in your scorecard. We're going to pull up the next team shortly. Thank you for your questions and feedback. Okay, welcome Team Magic. You are welcome to screen share your deck. And once we get going from there, we'll let you know when you're ready to pitch. Fantastic. As a reminder, you have 4 minutes to pitch with 8 minutes of Q&A from our judges. As soon as you start pitching, we will start our timer. I'll let you know if you've gone a little bit over. We need to go straight into the Q&A, but otherwise, any final questions before we jump into it?
No, I think that's good.
Great. Okay, feel free to take it away, Team Magic. Best of luck to your team.
All right, thank you. So our project is Magic the Sorter. We are a team of electrical, mechanical, and computer engineers that are doing this for our ECE Senior Design Project, which started this semester and will continue through the next semester. Basically, the background of what our project is all about is you have this trading card game, Magic the Gathering, in which tens of billions of cards have been printed over time and are then at various times resold by people. And the values of these cards is going to vary drastically based on what the card is and what set it's from. There's been dozens, maybe hundreds of sets over the last 3 decades or so, almost 3 decades. And the value of cards is also going to vary drastically based on the grading of the quality of the cards. As a card gets damaged, its value is going to drop drastically. And you can see that in the pictures on the right side of the screen, how the cost goes down very quickly and how it varies for different cards. So as a result, there are various market solutions that exist for this. So if you have a card that you think is very valuable, you could send it to a professional grader that would look at the different parts of the card and would grade it based on different metrics and give you an overall score that would dramatically change the value, the evaluation of that card. If you had a really large number of cards, you couldn't do that, you'd go bankrupt. So you could buy a machine like one of the ones on the right that sorts through a really large number of cards, but they can't really do grading. The one on the top says they're working on grading, but based on how their machine is designed and our understanding of how grading has to be done, their machine is designed very poorly to be able to be adapted to do that. The machine on the bottom makes no attempt to even do grading, and neither one of them can tell you if the card is even real. So if you have a forged card and it goes through your machine and then you sell it, that's going to look really bad for your business if you're selling fake cards and you don't even know. Also, if you look at the price of these machines, they're very, very expensive, which is probably largely coming from the labor costs that go into the development of such a machine. So our solution is going to be one in which we have a pick and place machine in which you're going to have a bunch of different input bins where you can put cards. The machine will pick the cards up, carry them over to an evaluation section where we can take a picture of the 2 faces of the cards as well as the side of the cards, and then place them on a scale where we can get at the mass of the card. If the mass of the card is over 1.8 grams, that's a strong sign that it's a forged card. Having had those faces and looking at the sides, we will know what the card is. We will know all of the points of damage and we can give it a grading, and we will know if the card is real or not. From there, we can then move it to output bins, and that will have completed the sorting for a bulk card, a lot of cards without damaging them. We are about 40%, maybe even more than 40% into making this thus far. I mean, you can see on the top right that this was the design we've catted up, and we've built large parts of it so far. One of the things that we had early on was we were working, the professor who's our advisor has some friends in Italy that owned a warehouse that was reselling these cards. And they sent us around 1,000 cards to use for testing. And they also gave us a lot of tips for how to detect frauds. We have $500 from the ECE department, which has been enough to get us a good part of the way along, but we're going to need a lot more money to increase quality and to make sure that we have everything we need to properly finish the product. We are all obviously very committed to this because.
Thank you so much. We're just a little over the 4-minute mark, so we're going to go right into our 8-minute.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, you can see what is needed on the slides. I think I'll leave share up because I may need to show you other things as needed. Does that work?
So, hi, thank you. So where do you envision this sorting mechanism being placed? Like, would users buy it for their home? Would it be in some other location?
Yeah, it's most likely going to be a lot too expensive for someone to use in their home. It's something where if you were a hobby store or a warehouse like the one that we are collaborating, working with, they would want a product like this. I talked to a store called X9 Games in Hampshire Mall, and I just got their opinion on the general market, and they were thoroughly aware of the different machines that existed and how expensive they were. They said their budget was around 2.5K. So if we can make a machine that costs significantly less than that to make, then stores like them would be able to buy it, and it would be very profitable for them. Having something where you can have a machine and just put a bunch of cards in it at the end of the day, and the machine runs overnight, and you come back the next day and everything's properly sorted for you, would be incredibly helpful.
And how much of the cost, I guess, so there's the cost of actually making it and labor and stuff like that. How much profit do you think you all would get from a venture like this?
So we have the one benefit of, because it's a senior design project, fundamentally, labor costs are pretty cheap. In terms of getting all of the materials, and in the longer term, when we would be paying people, that would certainly bring up costs a lot more. But if we're selling at 2.5K, it should cost maybe 1,500, 2K to properly build everything for each device. So that means we get a profit for each machine that we're able to make.
And can you define the type of card? Is this, and I didn't know if Magic was part of the brand, or we're focused on only that as an area versus sports cards, etc.
So
yeah,
okay,
tell
I can
us
speak to that a
about
little bit. So we went with Magic to begin with, just because, so everything here is broadly true of the entire collectible card industry. So there are sports cards, there's other card games like Pokemon. We just focused on Magic because we figured it would be a good size for us to tackle. The secondhand market is huge. It's probably the largest, if not one of the largest, collectible card kind of series games out there. But also we totally have that as one of our future ambitions. If this goes somewhere, if this begins to grow, extending the capabilities of our machine to handle things like sports cards or other trading card games.
A lot of the convenient stuff about the software that we have so far, when it comes to doing things like hashing and feature matching, as long as you have the database, which you would have for all of those different types of cards, you just change your database and the software is going to be the same. And so that makes a lot of things very convenient. The size of a Magic card, sports card, Pokemon card, all the same. Yu-Gi-Oh cards a bit smaller, which in this case, that's not going to be a big issue. So, yeah.
And one of the things I think about is damage to a valuable card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would people?
So that's why the pick and place is good. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're staying away from the edges. Yeah.
Have you given any thought to adversarial, like if someone were, I've seen stuff where people put 3Ds, like basically, on a stop sign, they may put just black squares somewhere and make cars think that it's not a stop sign. Have you given any thought to, like, if people were to do any things to manipulate cards that would impact your ability to categorize them, or are you just thinking to assume everybody's friendly?
Well, the adversarial thing that we have to think about predominantly is going to be fraudulent cards. So the people at the warehouse in Italy gave us a pretty good synopsis of the things that they look for. The glossiness of the card, making sure that the print pattern follows this very specific hexagonal shape where it gets printed like that for the ink dots. And then on the back of a Magic card, there are 5 different colored circles. In the middle of the green circle, there's a white space. In that white space, there should be 4 red pixels. So if you really zoom in, which we can do with a proper camera, then we have with a Raspberry Pi camera, we can properly make sure that those dots are there. If it was a real card and they put random marks on it or something like that to try to make it so we couldn't properly identify the card, what would happen with the hashing and the feature matching would be that it would just say, we can't identify the card, and it would go into can't identify the card bin, which that doesn't really, as an adversary, all that hurts is themselves. And then, yeah, so basically the main adversary is going to be people making fraudulent cards, and we have that's like half of our analysis in our evaluation section is tackling that, because obviously that's a very important thing to think about.
How large is that market, even unrelated to sorting, etc.? How big is that particular market in terms of millions or billions in the US or worldwide?
So we did a bit of research into this, and there's no one number out there, but it is in the several $billion, they think. And there are individual cards that'll sell for several $100,000, tens of thousands of dollars, several $100,000. So even just the Magic market is gigantic. And then when you go into other sorts of trading cards, sports cards, that sort of thing, it gets even bigger from that. So it in the $1 billion realm.
And are most of the transactions at a store, brick and mortar store, or online or auctions?
I'd say most is online, but there's going to be a lot in stores as well. That's why I was talking to the store in Hampshire Mall, and there's plenty of other stores like it where you're a person, that's your local hobby store. You bring in your life's collection of cards because you got to pay rent, and you give them it, and then they have to find some way to either just say, that looks like about that much money, and they give you that, and you say, sure. Or maybe they've bought a machine like this and can tell you what the card is and say, okay, these cards, if we assume they're this rarity and that they're not fake, then we'll give you that much money. So having a solution where you can be sure that you know what the grading is and that it's a real card will help a lot of those different places. But yeah, I think predominantly it would be an online thing where you'd be getting it from a warehouse like the one that we talk with, and they would have that machine.
Yeah, the warehouse we're partnered with is an online store, and their inventory is in the several 100,000. I think over 1 million cards they have in inventory.
And a technical question, would you have to have one of each in the database as part of background recognition for the ones?
Yes, and we do, so yeah.
All right, thank you.
Great work. Thank you, team, for being here today.
All right,
of course.
that's it for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to our first 6 startups of the day. At this point, we are going into a brief intermission. So our judges have a little bit of a chance to get a quick break, a stretch break, have some lunch before we jump into the rest of our 10 pitches this afternoon. We are going to kick off with our next pitch at 1:20 p.m., the awkward connection. Until then, we have a little bit of a brief intermission. If you're watching in the audience, we will be back at 1:20 or a couple of minutes before. Judges, if you're able to please fill in your final scorecards from the last team. Please, if you could come back and join us at around like 1:15, 1:20, we'll get started with our next pitch at that time for our remaining 10 pitches of the day. If you have any final questions before we go into intermission, please don't hesitate to chat us or reach out. We'll be here. Thank you.